Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Mike Duffy of CTV, and in case you didn't know it, you're watching Studio Q, the future of Canadian journalism.
Hi, I'm Abbey.
And I'm Sharie, and welcome to a brand new season of Queen's student television show, Studio Q.
We've got a great show lined up for you this week. It's our 5th and best season ever here at Studio Q, with a new format and a whole new look. But first, as election time draws closer, Queen's students had an opportunity to catch a glimpse of federal Liberal leader Chretien here on campus this past Friday. As Mike Wise reports, Mr. Chretien's visit was part of a special targeting strategy aimed at the interests of university students.
If the crowds that turned up to see federal Liberal leader Chretien last Friday were any indication, apathy won't be a problem in this election. Students had to be turned away from this lecture hall in the School of Policy Studies because it was filled to twice its capacity. With the national media in tow, Queen's was a mid-afternoon stop on the campaign tour. How do you speak to students at Queen's? Flattery helps.
My campaign chairman from Ontario, David Smith, is another graduate from here. So, perhaps I have too many of them, but...
Much of Chrétien's speech was spent talking about his recently unveiled campaign platform of deficit reduction and job creation. If it seemed like a calculated political move to discuss the economy with students facing a 20% unemployment rate, it was.
Students are a large voting public. You have some students in first year who aren't able to vote, but you have another 14,000 who can, and that makes a large impact on an election. Especially in a riding situation, students, especially in Kingston, can swing the vote either way.
But image without substance makes for cynical voters. Where does Chrétien stand on issues like education? He'd avoid huge tuition rate increases by negotiating federal transfer payment cutbacks to provinces in 5-year blocks.
So they need stability, and we'll give them stability. When I will sign the document, I'll keep it for 5 years.
Would you feel optimistic being a student in 1993?
For me, I'm great. I'm very up on Canada. I think that if we can create the proper mentality in Canada, you know, we will get out of these difficulties. I don't believe that the trickle-down economic theory that if the rich get very rich, there will be something for everybody. You know, I believe that if we together, the public sector and the private sector, work together, we can achieve the goals that are to make the young people optimistic about the future.
On Tuesday, Chrétien unveiled plans for a $100 million Youth Corps program. Its aim is to provide students with job experience through work programs and environmental projects. But this may only be the start of a campaign that sees several policies and programs aimed at young voters. Already there are rumors that other national leaders and politicians are planning visits to campus. For Studio Q, I'm Michael Wise reporting.
As candidates campaign for votes, it's going to be tougher for students to vote this year. To save money, last year's referendum list will be reused. This will obviously pose a problem for Frosh and students who've moved. So, rather than enumerating door to door, this year Election Canada will be sending information packages on September 27th, this Monday, with special forms to be filled in by each voter. If anyone has any problems, questions, or you don't receive one, please contact them at 530-2000 or drop by their office at 62 Queen Street, between Queen and Wellington.
Still to come on Studio Q, the Best of Frosh Week 93.
With the beginning of another school year upon us, Queen's students can look forward to the wonderful, fun-filled, seldom tedious process of registering for courses. Queen's students in particular become frustrated with the impact of government setbacks and the actions of various departmental officials on their academic careers. Steph Wilson has more on the effects of the lean 90s on Queen's own psychology department.
One of the most popular departments here at Queen's is psychology.
Classes are usually full, forcing fierce competition between students for spots and courses. Dr. Cynthia Feckin, head of undergraduate studies in the psychology department, explains the situation.
We certainly had instances in March where, for the most popular seminar courses, we might have up to 120 people ask for a course that could accommodate 25.
This huge interest in the psychology program has created a number of administrative problems for students. Matthew Carey, a fourth-year psychology student, talks about his experience with pre-registration.
Well, pre-registration was a bit of a zoo, lining up for hours and fighting to try and get into courses that are already full. And
Dr. Feckin describes her own frustration with the process.
Quite frankly, I think that our entire pre-registration system, and indeed registration system, is archaic. I'm not at all happy to be sitting at a table trying to process 1,000 students a day by putting my signature on a piece of paper.
Because of these problems, along with others, a number of students became so disillusioned with the department that they chose to leave it completely. One student, who wishes to remain unidentified, explains her reasons for leaving the psychology program.
There are too many students for too few positions. They should have probably weeded some of the students out a few years ago. However, they let the people come in through the cracks. When I was in third year, I got into courses for fourth year, but I didn't get into my third year courses, whereas the graduating students have a tendency not to get into the courses that they want, and it's a struggle. I've had to add on another year to my degree now just because I have to make up some courses because I've switched my focus of study. I just felt like a lost soul, I think, at times. It was difficult.
When asked about the possibility that students' marks were belled down in an effort to restrict entry into courses, DSC representative Natasha Caton made these remarks.
It's not a policy of the department. Okay. Different professors have the different policies, but the psych department as a whole does not want to weed out people in that way.
Contrary to her remarks, Matthew Carey shared his own experience.
Okay, I think last year in my 300 class, they did actually bell the lab sections.
As serious as the problems of pre-registration, course admittance, and marking have been for some students, these are not the roots of student and faculty frustration. Many point to the problem of underfunding as a major contributor to departmental troubles.
There isn't that money available, and we are constantly told by the administration that speaks to us, make do. You're not going to get more people, you're not going to get more money. If you have too many students asking, then set some limits within the department. We can't help you.
Is the system archaic, as Dr. Feckin suggests? Some students seem to agree with her. And underfunding. This is a problem everyone continues to hear more and more about. With projected tuition increases next year of between 50 and 200%, money will continue to be a major issue. In the leaner 90s, if tuition isn't going to improve the quality and efficiency of university education, students may start to question where it is going. For Studio Q, I'm Stephanie Wilson reporting.
The Alma Mater Society had its first assembly of the year last Thursday evening, where the executive presented their summer report. They also announced plans to reevaluate the entire structure of the AMS. Their aim is to create a leaner, more efficient student government for the 90s. More safety measures were installed on campus over the summer. Students will notice extra emergency lighting in some areas, and the new Bell payphones include a special emergency button for callers in trouble. The newly formed Queen's University Black History Collective held a welcome party at Kingston's Caribbean Club last Thursday night. This group came together last spring and plans to offer students some great events throughout the year, especially in February, which is Black History Month. There is life after class. At least everyone who attended clubs night seemed to think so. It was a chance for students to find out how to get involved with different groups on campus. The clubs represented a wide range of interests, from juggling to politics to skydiving. Frosh Week 1993 was a huge success, as the class of '97 had their first taste of the good life. The life of a Queen's student. Forget ritual, forget J-section, forget getting purpled and eng cuts. Engineering's most notorious event is definitely the grease pole. Jen Mondoux has more on Psi 97's grueling attempt at this orientation ritual.
The Centennial Frosh will climb the pole so fast that it's going to be in the record books.
Yeah.
Frosh Week at Queen's would not be complete without the infamous grease pole, a traditional rite of passage with this year's victims being Psi 97. Despite all of the changes to orientation, the engineering faculty has been allowed to keep their beloved grease pole. This year's committee has worked hard to shake off some of the criticism stemming from this event.
But this year working very well with Queen Security. We seem to come up a way with people being at the front gate and more policing around the pit.
Although security was increased this year, several other traditions were deleted. Gone are the U-Haul vans, which in previous years were the official mode of transportation for upper year engineers, and also Grease Pole 1993 was officially sanctioned as a dry event. Alcohol did, however, manage to factor itself in.
It's officially dry. That's about all it is.
Yet the changes made to Grease Pole are receiving support not only from orientation committees and review boards, but also from the veteran grease polers themselves.
Other than that, I guess they got to do whatever they can to satisfy the orientation review board.
Nonetheless, the grease pole remains a questionable event and is under serious scrutiny for reasons which are obvious to some, but not to others. It continues to attract all shapes and sizes, however. One spectator in particular had this advice to offer the 97s.
Get ladder.
This year's NSOC committee is being congratulated, however, for the changes they've made to the grease pole. No pat on the back for Psi 97, though. Despite initial enthusiasm, it took them 186 minutes to capture the tam. If all goes well with orientation review, the 98s will also be jumping into the pit come next September. For Studio Q, I'm Jen Mondoux reporting.
We've all heard horror stories about orientation week in years past. We can also breathe a sigh of relief that changes were made in Frosh Week to bring it into the 90s, luckily before any of us ever set foot on this campus.
But have you ever wondered why tamming for arts and science involves whipped cream and balloons, and for the engineering Frosh, it's overcoming a 6-foot pole covered in lanolin? Well, I have. So I went out to do some investigating to discover some of the obvious discrepancies between each faculty. The primary objective for this year's Frosh Week was for it to be fun, inclusive, and safe. The question was it possible to fulfill these objectives across the board and please everyone? The past 4 years have witnessed dramatic changes in Orientation Week, and according to this year's SORB chair, Dr. J. Bennett, there were still several events which seemed particularly troublesome prior to Frosh Week.
But within that group, there were a couple of 3 different types of events that were particularly troublesome. One was the grease pole, and I can come back to that. Another was events at Miles Acres, and a third events at Wolf Island.
The primary concern with these 3 events were laid down by last year's Chief Student Constable in a memo, which was concerned with the distribution of alcohol to minors and those already intoxicated, safety on the sites, and the potential for sexual assault. Laurie DeGulia, Orientation Chair of the Engineering Society, comments on the concerns of the grease pole.
Prior to the event, there was a lot of concerns about safety, like I had mentioned earlier. That was our #1 concern, especially for the grease pole, because things can happen very quickly and very easily.
As a result, SORB made it their mandate to ensure that all event descriptions were non-ambiguous and complied to the set objectives of Frosh Week. Although changes have been made apparently in an effort to streamline Frosh Week, there are still evident differences to the degree of fun each faculty delights in. The engineers sport mohawks and struggle for 3 hours and 8 minutes to climb up a pole, the commies strut around with bells on their feet, and the artsies, amongst others, get to slither around on a mat full of grime. Surely certain faculty events were of higher risk than others. The AMS Orientation Chair comments on why individual faculty orientation weeks have different agendas.
There's definitely differences in the events that they run and also in the styles of the week. For instance, there's a lot of emphasis on academics in the ASOS week, but not as much in engineering because the engineering Frosh don't have to choose courses. They have them pre-selected.
Thus, the preoccupation with academic course selection leaves the activities of the Arts and Science faculty with Carnival Day, and the commies get their early morning exercise. All the while, the engineers were jumping knee-deep in a mud-filled pit. Since each faculty sets up its own orientation program, all the activities of each faculty are different and therefore difficult to compare. And thus it seems that as long as they meet the requirements of SORB, Miles Acres, Wolf Island, and the Grease Pole will continue. So long live a safe, inclusive, and fun Frosh Week. For Studio Q, I'm Sharie Ross, reporting.
Think back to one of the most exciting and nerve-wracking days of your life. If you're like most students, it was probably the day you packed up the car and drove to Kingston for your first day of university. To kick off our new Snapshot Queens series, let's have a look at what it was like for first-year student Cindy Graham to leave home and start her new life here at Queens.
Hi, I'm Cindy Graham. I'm going into life sciences, and this is my first day at Queens. Are you all set?
How are you going to film that?
I don't know. Just put it in the back seat of the car. I didn't even think about going anywhere else. That's just where I've always wanted to go. Well, I hear the food is pretty awful after a while, but I'm sure if there's nothing else to eat, what can you do? She's the first to leave home.
And what do you think about that?
Kind of hard. It's, just 19 years ago I brought her home from the hospital. Yeah, it's mixed feelings, you know, like I'm proud of her. I'm anxious that she's going, that she's, you know, entering this new challenge and everything, but I wish she'd have done it closer to home. Just everything last night, ironed and everything.
Oh, good.
No, let's go.
I think I'll probably miss her in a week, but right now I'm pretty excited. I just want to be an only child.
How's this? Bye.
Come on. Okay, go away.
Griffey.
Glad to know you're going to miss me so much. I'll miss you a lot.
This one's going to cry in the car, and that one will cry in the house. No. Yeah.
Do you want to ask them to see Mark now? One elevator. Eh?
One elevator.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have any problems or anything, or you just want to talk, come and talk to me. Hopefully.
Oh, pick up your stuff on the floor there. It's a little bit smaller than I thought, but there's lots of storage space, you know, more than I had at home, so it's pretty nice. Try and meet some people, you know, make some friends, get these butterflies out of my stomach.
Well, happy moving in.
Nice to meet you guys.
Same here, so stop by any time.
Okay.
I just
You
knocked
too.
on her door and I don't even know who she is, and I said hi. And
Yeah. Well, you gotta meet people somehow, so.
That's right.
If you have to leave her somewhere, this is one of the best places, I guess. She's always wanted to go to Queens, and I'm happy that she got to come here.
Close to home?
Yeah, it's not as close as it could be. It's sad to leave her behind.
Well, I'll probably be sad, but freedom, you know. Not mommy's little girl anymore, you know, growing up. I don't know. I'll be sad. Probably as soon as I get my phone, I'll be getting phone calls from them, though, so. But I'm kind of happy. You know, I've been waiting for this moment for a really long time. I just can't believe it's finally here. So I'm really excited now. Yeah.
Isn't that like the typical
Sunny,
question to ask
warm.
when you get back? Yeah, nice. Nice, yes. I had a very nice summer.
My summer was awesome. And? It was awesome. And what I did, I worked landscaping for a month and worked at a camp for 2 months. A camp? Yeah. No way, where? In Burlington.
Yes, I stayed in Kingston this summer and I worked on the Island Queen, which is a boat that does cruises of the 1,000 islands. And I had a great time.
I worked a little bit kind of for the government in Ottawa.
Kind of?
Yeah, yeah, you know, so it was, so basically, you know, I shuffled the cards and fluffed the pillows, erased the X's and O boards, you know, that kind of thing.
Dug potatoes, government job, you know.
My summer was boring,
Just baking out, you know, checking out the chicks, getting a tan.
I was just going to ask you a question. Can you tell me how your summer was?
So-so.
Is this what you did all summer?
Yeah.
Are you glad to have the students back?
Doesn't matter.
Oh. I planted 75,000 trees.
I planted 75,000 trees.
I planted 85,000 trees.
I planted 85,000 trees.
Some days 100.
Some days 100,000 trees.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's different than an ordinary streetwise, where...
See, if you asked me a question and it was a topic I could answer on, I'd come up with something witty. But if you come up to me and say something witty, then I'll go,
No, no, actually, the topic is, how was your summer vacation? But I'm not trying to thrust an important question.
It was kind of boring. I didn't find a job, so I had to come back to Queens.
See, now you're depressing the people.
I didn't mean to depress you, I'm sorry, but I just couldn't find a job, so I'm back at Queens.
People are switching channels now. We'll see how that works. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that, or?
Just looking forward to having a good year. Thanks for that, Jared.
In sports, Kingston's town crier started off the annual Terry Fox run last Sunday. After registration, an aerobic workout, and a special address from Mayor Helen Cooper, participants took to the streets in some unique ways. Staff and students from local high schools painted their faces and competed against one another to see which school could show the most participation and raise the most money. All of the funds raised go to cancer research, including studies being conducted here at Queen's. On Saturday, the football Gaels suffered another early loss to the Bishop's Gators in Lennoxville to the tune of 34-7. For the last few years, Queen's has tended to start slowly, and this game may just be an example of a new team that has not yet gelled. The Gaels have been working very hard in practice this week in preparation for their next game. Nobody seemed to be giving excuses for the turtle-like start of the team, and the prevailing mood on the practice field was one of determination and confidence that this year's squad will once again be a source of pride for the Queen's community.
Yeah, and I don't think Bishop's is insurmountable, and I think that things are starting to look positive. Certainly practice this week so far has been looking up.
The lack of execution on offense was targeted by the coaching staff and received a great deal of attention on the practice field. Nonetheless, the players demonstrated they would be here to play hard football on the weekend. The Gaels are in action this Saturday when they take on the Carleton Ravens at Richardson Stadium. The game starts at 1 p.m.
Next week on Studio Q, a cast fit for Queen's, an exclusive tour of Hertz Monceau, Queen's European Study Centre.
One of the ghosts is a drummer in that dark panelled room right over the front bridge.
Next week, only on Studio Q.
Well, there you have it, our first episode for our new season here at Studio Q. Don't forget to tune in regularly at our new time, Thursdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. on CableNet 13.
Next week, we'll also have more great stories as well as our fantastic giveaway. If you filled in a free raffle ticket for our free Granada TV rental, be sure to watch for the draw on next week's show. And remember, you have to watch to win. And if you can't remember whether you filled in a ticket or not, watch anyway, because it might be your lucky day.
Also, if you have any comments or questions, don't hesitate to give us a call. Our number is 545-6699, or better yet, drop us a note. The address is Studio Q, Room 22, John Deutsch University Center, Kingston, Ontario.
Should we mention the birthday party?
Oh yes, we are having a birthday celebration also in JDUC, and it is Friday from 1 to 3, and there's a big cake, so come on out and have a piece of cake.
First come, first serve, so be there early.
So that's it for this week for Studio Q. I'm Graham Abbey.
And I'm Sharie Ross. See ya.